It was soon to be Christmas, and as everyone all over the world knows, that is the most wonderful time of year to celebrate, be joyous, eat far too many sugar cookies, and of course, go out and play in the snow. And it would have been just that way had they not heard the terrible news that very day. Word spread quickly throughout the town. The day after Christmas, old Wormwood Hall was going to be torn down to the very ground.
All those in favor? Aye! All right then, Wormwood Hall will be taken down to make room for redevelopment. Hello? Hey, did you hear? They're tearing down Wormwood Hall. Extra, extra, read all about it. Wormwood Hall to bite the dust.
Oh, such a pity. The lovely old house was built a long time ago at the end of the lane, and while certainly well past its prime, to look at it, you'd have to say the grandeur somehow managed to remain. The view from the windows on every floor was a vision of ancient trees, trunks covered in velvety green moss, a small meandering brook, and in the springtime, wild flowers galore. But now it was winter, and old Wormwood Hall was completely covered over with snow, the bones of its rafters frozen below, and here and there shingles were missing or even hanging askew, what with no caretaker about to keep things fresh and new. Inside, the floorboards were buckled, carpets long faded, the once finely carved hallways no longer were beautifully lumbered, and the cracks in the window panes where the snowflakes drifted through were sadly more proof Wormwood's days were truly numbered. Now, those who had lived in this fine old mansion had long since departed, packed up and moved far away, never to be heard from again. But the hall was far from deserted, for you see, all the bugs and all the tiny insects through all the years had remained. And not just one or two, mind you, but a thriving community of quite a few. However, it must be said, from generation to generation, the bugs had rather abandoned their friendly relations. The flies and the spiders, the termites and the gnats, though they disagreed endlessly, arguing about all this and that, and in the end decided it was better to go their own way, and so they stayed quite apart. Indeed, they shared space in the old place, but there was certainly no spirit of brotherhood to be found in their hearts. And so every year, instead of sharing the joys of Christmas like most would do, they simply went off to their own neighborhood, up in the corners or under the floors, inside picture frames or high up on the wall behind the crown molding wood. And there they'd huddle with their families and play their own Christmas songs, and oh, heaven forbid any outside bug should ever want to join in and sing along. But of course, this Christmas was very different. There was no time now to be lost on petty bickering. Why, their very homes were in jeopardy, and the clock was tickering. So they gathered together as all victims must. There in the library they clung to the old lampshades, hung on the walls, circled about in the air, or simply sat down in the dust. When all were assembled, old man Weber, the spider who lived in the chandelier on the second-floor landing, rose up on his legs to get everyone's attention and said in a voice that was quite commanding,
Well, listen here, you bugs. Tomorrow's Christmas. The day after that, they're gonna be bulldozers knocking this place down. Why, you there, Timothy Wing. You and the other flies are always buzzing on about something or other. Well, what are we gonna do about this?
Isn't much we can do. No one listens to us. I mean, anybody have any ideas?
Me.
The suggestion came from Skeet. who was something of a spokesperson for the mosquitoes. Exactly what it meant, of course, no one really knows. Then, from the very back of the room, a tiny wing went up, so small that for the moment no one was aware that it had. It belonged to a very young moth by the name of Bill, who had in fact climbed up on the shoulders of his dad.
Go ahead, kid. If you've got something to say, just spit it out.
Tomorrow is like Christmas, and,
Oh, for corn's sake, get on with it.
if this is the last Christmas, we could, have it together?
What? Play and sing Christmas songs together? Outrageous. Not to mention that it won't change a thing.
Yes, you're right, Mr. Weber, but we have nothing else, and just maybe it makes us feel better.
See how much better it makes you feel when we're all homeless and standing outside in the freezing cold.
If that's true, even more reason to have a farewell Christmas party. Well, there's one vote, and the rest of you?
As if there had not already been enough surprises for one day, a resounding cry of yes filled the room that December. They agreed to share this last Christmas and sing songs together for the first time since before anyone could remember. The very next night was a sight to astonish one's eyes. Into the library they came, bug after bug, carrying musical instruments of every shape and size. There were trumpets and clarinets, a French horn and a tuba or two, drums and castanets, a xylophone, a slide trombone, 4 flutes, and even a kazoo. The Japanese Beatles played first, as I recall. They walked front and center and announced they would perform their favorite holiday song. But before you knew it, out came an enormous gong.
Oh, for crying out loud, what was that racket? You call that a Christmas song? In order to make music, you've got to have musical instruments, not be banging on a garbage can lid with a hammer. Now listen up, you bugs, because this is how a Christmas song is supposed to sound.
With his many spidery arms, old Weber began picking up all manner of instruments, harmonica and accordion, tambourine, saxophone. Then tapping his foot, he began playing all of them on his own.
Oh, Christmas tree, oh, Christmas tree, you sure are full of splendor. What's that supposed to mean? You don't like it? Oh, and I suppose all you mosquitoes think you can do better? out terrible. I don't suppose you flies have anything better.
Turns out we have just the thing,
said Timothy Wing, picking up his guitar and plucking the strings.
Hit it, boys.
Once again, it did not go over terribly well, as you might have guessed. What with everyone thinking their own music was the best. And that was when the Norwegian dust mite named Nils, round as a berry, twice as hairy, came forward raising his voice.
What are you all thinking here? This hipping and hopping music is not going to make anyone rejoice.
This is awful. We can't even agree on Christmas music.
Yeah, that's because all of you have no appreciations for what is the real music.
Maestro, in the G, please.
Well, with that, they were ready to call the whole thing off. Go back and pack all their belongings, every dish, every pillow, every toothbrush, every comb, and wait for dawn when the bulldozers would arrive and quite methodically demolish their home. In truth, the idea of coming together for the last Christmas would have all been for naught. It would have ended right there if Timothy Wing had not had one final thought. He turned to where the moths were, looking about until he spotted little Bill. Oh, the youngster looked sad as sad could be, eyes downcast, wings drooping, sitting there ever so still.
This was your idea, Bill, so what's next?
Me? I guess I like this one.
The little moth took out a tin whistle and began to play, and oh, it was so sweet and pure. They couldn't say really if it was one kind of music or another. It was just simply the sound of Christmas. Of that they were all quite sure. And you might not believe it, but before very long, every bug in the room picked up an instrument and began playing along.
Are those tears, Mr. Weber?
Me cry? Why, when you have as many eyes as I do, either sensitive to dust, to dust.
Floated through the cracks in the walls, out through the broken window panes, up through the holes in the roof, flowing out on the cold night air, spreading far and wide. It rang through the streets of the town, echoing from house to house, covering the entire countryside. People awoke to find the music had them all but surrounded. They threw on their coats and heavy wool cloaks and hurried up the lane to Wormwood Hall and stood outside, mesmerized at how beautiful it sounded. One could say where the music came from. Yet there were the fiddles and the horns and the drums. Why, it was a true holiday miracle right out of the blue. And in that very moment, the townsfolk knew what they must do. They'd not tear down the hall to make room for some more. They'd repair it and paint it and fix it like new. They decided right then and there, in the spirit of Christmas, Wormwood Hall would be spared. Well, hearing all this, the bugs knew what had to be done. From this time forward, each Christmas they'd come together as one, year after year after year, never to cease, for as long as we sing together, we will forever live in peace. From that day to this, goodwill and friendship were in no short supply. Even the termites, who proved to be a rather musical bunch, finally promised to stop eating the attic for lunch. There it is. The story is told of old Wormwood Hall, and how it became a true symbol of Christmas for one and for all.